If we look back for the moment where modern punk rock started, there's always one band that gets overlooked, and that band is Slapstick. They might be the most important band you've never heard of. Hey everyone, Mike here, and today I'm going to talk about the Slapstick family tree, a group of bands all connected by one single band whose members went on to shape the scene we all love. I'll go over the history of the band that started it all, Slapstick. I'll play and talk about every individual band on the family tree, and talk about the family tree's legacy and what it means to modern punk. So let's start at the beginning. Now, as some of you may know, I live in Chicago, born and raised, and all the bands, Slapstick and all the bands I'm going to be talking about, all formed around Chicago, so a lot of these bands I listened to when I was first getting into punk and doing my research of not just, what I was listening to when I first discovered punk, because a lot of these bands came way before my time, but went online, did research when I was getting into punk, and, saw Slapstick and this family tree and did a bunch of research on that, so a lot of these bands were influential when I was first getting into punk. But if you don't know anything about Slapstick or the Slapstick family tree, don't worry about it. I'll be holding your hand and taking you on a guided tour of the entire Slapstick family tree. Before going on, I do want to give a shout out to some of the sources I used for the video, brandonboost.wordpress.com and Alexander Hellbatch Design. Both of them came up with really cool designs that showcase the Slapstick family tree, that you're going to be seeing those images throughout the entire video. And Brandon Boost wrote a really cool article detailing Slapstick and the entire family tree all the way back in 2010. All the pictures, links, and all the websites will be linked in the description. Hey guys, Mike from the future. With every video I put the vinyl records behind me, mostly if I have a vinyl record of the band that I'm talking about, or just some interesting ones that I have in my collection. And of course, when I make a video on the Slapstick family tree, I forget to put the Slapstick family, or the Slapstick record, in the video behind me. Which is really upsetting to me editing the video right now. So anyway, here's the record, here's the vinyl, and I just forgot to put it behind me. Alright, back to the video. Slapstick formed in 1993 and broke up in 1996, so obviously they weren't around for a long time, but they left a lasting impact on the scene. The members of Slapstick were Brendan Kelly, Dan Andriano, Dan Hanaway, Matt Stamps, Rob Kellenberger, Peter Anna, and Carl Henkelman. Like most punk bands, they released EPs and technically 2 albums. But what you really need to know about the band is that they released their self-titled in 1997. Now, this was a compilation album featuring all their previously released music with some newer songs. This was released on Asian Man Records and is the only music from the band on streaming services, so it serves as the band's only digital release, so I don't want any purists in the comments yelling at me that I didn't talk about any of the other band's releases. This is the band's only digital footprint and the way most people will listen to and find the band, so that's why it's the most important album from Slapstick. I like to refer to this album as the Midwest's Operation Ivy. Both are ska records, both have a long track list, and feature signature rough and gritty vocals. Now I know Operation Ivy is by far the more popular album and band and led to one of the biggest bands in punk with Rancid, but I'd argue Slapstick also made a major impact. So let's talk about the album. 25 fast-paced ska/ska punk songs. The band's most popular song, There's a Metalhead in the Parking Lot, is all about being afraid of growing up and wasting your youth. 18 again is a song about being afraid of growing up, but the song is set up a little bit differently here, more like a breakup song with the band longing for a girl named Freedom that was around last summer. What I Learned About is a song about work, school, and society trying to mold you into not questioning anything. Almost Punk Enough is a song about falling in love with someone that doesn't care about punk rock. She Doesn't Love Me is a fun breakup song. We have a cover of Earth Angel, and one of my personal favorites, Alternative Radio, which is a song about attacking alternative rock radio for playing the same boring songs all the time. While Slapstick did have their fair share of fun songs, they also had songs like The Geek, Ed, and Nate, and all those songs dealt with more serious topics like bullying, losing friends and family, and growing apart from friends. As to why Slapstick broke up, lead singer Brendan Kelly had this to say. Slapstick broke up because we couldn't write songs together anymore. Dan or I would bring songs in and Matt, Danny, and Rob wouldn't like it. Conversely, those three would bring in songs and Dan and I wouldn't like them. The creative process stagnated. It has a lot to do with the fact that none of us ever really liked ska a lot. It was just a phase for all of us, and once we got through that phase, writing ska became hard to do, not to mention silly. We had different ideas about what direction Slapstick should go in, and there was no other resolution. We are all still great friends, though. So, sadly, Slapstick is over, but what those members did after was form some of the most popular and influential bands in the scene. Here's a brief overview of those bands. Alkaline Trio. I won't spend too much time talking about Trio because I assume most of the people watching this video are aware of who exactly they are. Trio, of course, has that signature style of gothic punk rock. And hey, current Alkaline Trio member Matt Skiba is now a current member of Blink-182. So technically, I think that does make Blink-182 part of the Slapstick family tree. Maybe like a nice little shrub right next to it. Unlike a lot of the other bands that I'm going to be talking about, Touché was an emo band. And Touché wasn't one of the bands that I really got heavily into when I was first getting into punk rock, so when I was doing research for this video, I sat down and listened to a bunch of songs from Touché, and I really loved what I heard. So Awake and Goodbyes Have Been Said are some of my favorites, and just a note for people getting into the band for the first time, I did notice on Spotify, on the band's album Freewheelin', that the songs Too Much of Today and So Awake are swapped. They're in the wrong position. The titles are incorrect on Spotify, and on YouTube where someone uploaded the entire album and put in timestamps. It's wrong there as well, unless I'm wrong, but I don't think I am because one song is an instrumental and So Awake is a rework of a earlier song that was on an earlier EP of the same titles, So Awake and So Awake. So just a note there, if you're getting into the band for the first time, you can just look up the lyrics to So Awake and you'll know which song is which, and also not to mention that the other song is an instrumental. It's really confusing if you're getting into the band for the first time, and I don't know how this mistake happens over and over again unless it's intentional, which I guess it could be, but it doesn't really seem like it. So just a note there for anybody getting into Touché for the first time.
Let's go shopping today. Drive our fancy cars to the fancy malls, and for lunch we'll have Big Macs.
The Broadways were a gritty punk band that to me always sounded like they really wanted to be Bad Religion, and honestly there's nothing really wrong with that. My favorite song from the band is Broadway and Briar, and when they sing Who Do I Have to Kill to See a Familiar Face in This Town, it's punk rock bliss. Duvall was created because band members wanted to play religious punk music. It's not something you normally see, but hey, the music is still good. There's covers and originals, and when I first heard the song Gimme Some Light, I wasn't really aware of the religious context that the band wanted to put in all their songs, and I jammed the heck out of that song. Also, the lead singer of Duvall is the lead singer of the Smokin' Popes. The Honor System, a mix of Bad Religion, Propagandhi, and Jawbreaker. This wasn't one of my favorites from the family tree, but if you like any of those bands, check out The Honor System. Decompose was the song that stood out to me. Whale Horse. I couldn't find any music from this band, almost anywhere. So if you have a zip file or something, please link it down below. There is a MySpace page that is still active that has 2 songs on it, but they never played for me, so that's it. I can't talk about the band if I never heard them.
Did you really think we consider those of you straddling the line? Are you the serious kind? Do you regret your sign?
Colossal is another one of the emo bands on the Slapstick family tree, and considering all the emo history that's in Chicago, it's kind of odd that no one ever talks about Colossal. I'd probably say that their emo is like math rock mixed with emo. My favorite song from the band is The Serious Kind. The Lawrence Arms, legends in the Chicago scene, and in my opinion, a band that should be talked about a lot more in the overall scene. Depending on who you talk to, the Lawrence Arms have 3 or 4 classic albums. They've been releasing quality punk rock for years, and in my opinion, the Lawrence Arms are punk rock royalty. We have just a few more bands to get to. We have Sundowner, which features Chris from the Lawrence Arms, so a lot of cool acoustic versions of Lawrence Arms songs with Sundowner. And you also have the Falcon, which has Brendan from the Lawrence Arms and Dan from Alkaline Trio. I love their album, Gather Up the Chaps. It needs to be talked about a lot more. Sergio's Here is a jam. And finally, we have the Smoking Popes and Less Than Jake. Now, both bands already existed, but eventually would have members of Slapstick join them. So what is the legacy of the Slapstick family tree? Well, initially, the amount of bands that can trace themselves back to Slapstick is pretty incredible by itself. And then if we look at some of the bigger bands on the tree, your Alkaline Trios and Lawrence Arms, both of those bands are super influential to current bands that are on top of the scene right now. You have Alkaline Trio, a huge, massive band that had a unique gothic style of punk, and then you had the Lawrence Arms with their gritty anthemic style that, in my opinion, you can hear in a lot of more modern bands like your Pups and Menzingers and bands that are currently on top of the scene. While Slapstick might not be the best or biggest band of all time, if you follow the Slapstick family tree, you can see how punk rock changes over time, and that is pretty special. Make sure to check out my Spotify playlist linked down below, which features all the music from all the bands that I talked about in today's video. Please like and share the video, subscribe if you haven't, tell all your friends, follow me on Twitter, and as always, thanks for watching.